Today I'm going to show you how to winterize your outboard fishing boat motor. I'm going to start by adding stable into the gas tank. The mixing ratio is on the back of the bottle. This 32 fluid ounce makes up to 40 or 80 gallons. This is 6.6 gallons and I am at half a tank, so I only have about 3 gallons in there. And this stuff really doesn't have to be an exact science. Guys, so they do make a marine stable, but the store didn't have the marine stuff, so this is what I got. The marine stuff is blue, and it's designed for marine engines, obviously. 1 ounce treats 2.5 gallons. On the side here, if you squeeze this, you fill up right here to 1 ounce. So, and then dump that in. So that 1 ounce right there should be 2.5 gallons. I'll just overshoot it a little bit. I'll put another 1/2 ounce in there. Dump that in. And this is going to keep the gas and all your fuel lines and everything from the ethanol gelling up and going to help make sure your boat starts and you don't have carburation problems in the spring. I'm going to mix it up. Now the problem is the gas in the tank's going to be good, but the gas in the fuel lines and in the carburetor and the fuel pump are still untreated. So what we're going to do is go out, put the muffs on, hook it up to a hose. I'm going to run it for a little bit to get that gas with the fuel stabilizer through the fuel system in the motor. I apologize for it getting dark here, but so the muffs just go right over these spots right here on either side. That's where the water goes in to cool the engine. And now it's time to start the motor. So I always like to crack the water a little bit. You're going to want the water on when you start the motor. Then go ahead and fire up the motor. And then I'd like to turn the water on full bore to make sure we're getting good cooling up in there. Let that run for 5 minutes or so. Maybe not quite even. Taking this switch off right here. You gotta be careful because I have a spinning flywheel right here. You don't want to run it too long. You gotta be careful where you put your hand, but as long as your cylinder head here is not getting too scalding hot, you're fine to run. I can feel it getting pretty warm, so I'm gonna grab the fogging oil and we'll fog the engine. I apologize, apparently my mic quit working, but I have the engine at idle and I'm spraying the fogging oil directly into the carburetor. And when I do this, it stalls out the engine. This is exactly what you want. I like to give it a little bit extra. I even use my hand to hold open the butterfly valve on the throttle and spray a little extra down in there. Okay, so the back half of the engine, the bottom half of the engine is coated with fogging oil. Now we have to do the top half. So I would do these one at a time so you don't switch your plug wires by accident. But I'm going to pull the top spark plug. So, and then this fogging oil, they also make a marine fogging oil, which I also would recommend, because it does a really good job coating everything. So I'm just going to spray this right up in there. Plug back in. And you do want to be careful to not get any crap inside the engine. Because inside this spark plug is directly into the combustion chamber of the engine. And if you knock sand in there, you can start to damage the engine. So then I'll do the bottom one, and it's can't get a plug wrench on it, so I'm just going to use the old adjustable hammer. And then shoot some fogging oil up in there. So now that the engine is completely coated with oil, you don't want to start it again because you'll start burning that oil off. And remember, in the springtime, when you go to fire back up, there's going to be a lot of smoke because you got to burn off all that oil. So it's to be expected. But what I like to do after I get all this oil in the engine is just hit the ignition key real quick. Just to not start the engine, but just to turn over the engine real quick and knock that oil around. The engine's ready to go. The fuel system is all ready to go. The engine's all fogged. Now the last step is pulling the batteries. I disconnect and pull the batteries and store them in the basement of my house. Holy mackerel, how many batteries do I have? So when you disconnect the battery, you should disconnect the negative first. And when you connect, you should connect the positive first. But I'll pull both of these batteries out, store them inside over the winter. Notice how I'm covering up the positive lead with my hand as I undo this, because if this steel wrench goes from the negative terminal and touches the positive, it's going to spark, and I've got a gas tank right here, so something to keep in mind. When you put your batteries back in your boat in the springtime to fire up, it is very important to make sure you pop these covers off and check the acid/water level inside, because if the lead cells are exposed and you go to turn the key, as soon as there's any bit of draw on the battery, you can have a spark inside the battery and it can cause a massive explosion. Ask me how I know. When my now wife and I were first dating, one of our first dates we went on, I took her fishing, and it was the first time I got the boat out of the year, and I didn't check the level of the acid. And as soon as I turned the key, I was sitting right here, the battery blew up right behind me, plastic shrapnel everywhere, battery acid all over me, and I was all right. I got it all cleaned up, but it was incredibly loud, and to this day my wife is still a little nervous to get in this boat with me. So store these in the basement for the winter, just to make sure they stay warm, and then fill all your electrical panels with mothballs and rat poison and button it up for the winter. Yeah, should be good to go. Thanks for watching. Hope this helps. Ask any questions if you got them. I'll answer. Until I get super famous.